some of the major events of the past week before we narrow in on the key topics for the evening. So, here we go. President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu returned to the country on Saturday with only 9 days left to his inauguration as the 7th democratically elected leader of Nigeria. But it was an arrival that was overshadowed by deep infighting within his party over his choice of candidates to occupy the principal leadership of the National Assembly. Also, one attention from the past week is the crisis that has continued to rock the Labour Party as Factional leader Lamidi Apapa appears to be clutching at straws, if only to make the point that he should be the one that carries the title of the national chairman of the party. Plus, a wave of mass killings swept through some villages in Plateau State, notably in Mangu local government area. Nearly 200 bodies have so far been recovered. The violence began on Tuesday and more than 100 persons were killed in under 48 hours. Let's take a breather and then we will head into the conversation proper. Now, President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu has returned to Nigeria ahead of his May 29 swearing-in ceremony after spending 10 days in Europe. I'm sure you must have heard last week when we told you that he said he was traveling to Europe to meet with some business associates and get himself a little breather, as a lot of, back and forth concerning who becomes the speaker, who becomes the Senate president, and everyone trying to ask for their favors as promised during the campaign. Well, Mr. Tinubu arrived at the International Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja around 4:30 p.m. He was received by the Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima, Senate President Ahmed Lawan, Deputy Speaker Idris Wase, and others. Now, the Presidential Transition Council has already released a timetable of the transition activities, which will commence on the 23rd of May. Mr. Tinubu is facing a rebellion among lawmakers elect of his party over his choice of National Assembly leadership. Mr. Tinubu settled for Godswill Akpabio from the South and Barau Jibrin from the Northwest for the Senate President and Deputy Senate President respectively. Now, when he left the country on the 10th of May, aside aides of the President-elect said the trip was to enable him plan the transition without distractions. All right. Now, I'll not be alone while we'll have this conversation this evening. You know how we do it on the Sunday Spotlight. I definitely have intellectuals right here in the studio with me. Of course, we have Barrister Joe Nwokedi, of course, who will definitely be part of the conversation this morning. Barrister Joe, good evening, rather.
Good evening. It's my
good
pleasure.
Evening.
Viewers, I greet you all.
All right. Barrister John Nwokedi is a political enthusiast and analyst as well. And of course, most of the time, he's right here in the Sunday Spotlight. We also have Murphy Abadoni. Evening. Good evening and welcome to the Sunday Spotlight.
Good evening. Good evening to our viewers.
All right. Murphy Abadoni, too, is a political analyst as well as a commentator, too. And I'm sure when you join us on VOP this morning, you see him sometimes appear on our program. So it's a very interesting one. Remember that we're streaming live on YouTube, all right? It's Voice of the People TV at VOP TV Live. So go in there, subscribe, virtually be part of the conversation with us this evening. Also, try as much as possible to share and like. It's very important for you to do that. And of course, our sister station, Voice of the People 90.3 FM, we're streaming live on YouTube as well. So you can actually send in your comments, join the conversation while we continue. Now, we do know that it's been quite a very interesting week. A lot of drama took place, I must tell you. One would say that our political space now, the Election Petition Tribunal is up, is gaining momentum, and there's a lot of participation, whether visual. A lot of people just want to know what exactly is going on in the Election Petition Tribunal. And it's a very interesting one if you have been following the trend of what has currently been taking place there. But let's start off with the President-elect, who isn't a stranger to politicking, but at the federal level, things seem to be a bit different. That's like saying we may be expecting a longer honeymoon for him to settle down. there have been a challenge within the All Progressives Congress, right? And it's about the imposition of certain candidates, all right? Or it's about the imposition of certain candidates for occupying certain positions. For example, the speakership position, the Senate president, and the deputy. Now, you recall that Kashim Shettima said he is trying to avoid that particular speculation that went around whereby they feel like since he is a Muslim, the president is a Muslim, let it not seem like the APC is trying to put into reality the Islamization agenda. They're trying to kill that speculation and make it seem like that is not the case. But then, while the president was campaigning, I'm sure promises were made. And one of the reasons he said he was traveling out was because he felt that he did not want to be distracted, because a lot of persons are coming to meet him to say, oh, well, you told me if I do this, I will get this. I deserve this. It is my time to get this. He traveled out for it, but he's back to still meet it. Now, some lawmakers-elect have actually formed a group of their own to say, we don't want this imposition. We're waiting for the president-elect to come back and let us make sure that we do things the right way. We ought to be represented here too. What's your take on this, Barrister Murphy Abadoni?
Thank you very much. You see, whether anybody likes it or not, it is expected that in the course of trying to choose leadership of the National Assembly, both the red chambers and the green chambers, there will be issues of this nature, because every lawmaker wants to be found around the corridors of the leadership of the House, including those who are even first-time lawmakers. I've seen a man who is a first-time senator that is also wishing to be a Senate president. So considering our atmosphere and our environment where politicians are fond of always seeking relevance, because that is what is playing here.
Okay. You think it's about seeking relevance?
Seeking relevance. These persons that are seeking for these positions are not doing so because of their constituents. That is one fact I want to establish here. They are not doing so for constituents. They are not doing so for love of country. They are doing so for love of self and benefits. Don't forget, when you find yourself around the leadership of both houses, there are some other juicy arrangements that comes with it when it comes to heads of committees and all what's made. So that is what basically these persons are looking for. But beyond that, it's always natural that once you have the president from a particular zone and the vice president from a particular zone, it is always important that the leadership of the Senate, that is the Senate president, the deputy Senate president, the Speaker of the House, and the deputy Speaker of the House must also be given to other regions, you understand. Now we have a president that is from the southwest here, and a vice president, president-elect from the northeast. So one would naturally expect that this position will not go to any of those two zones. But the question is, where should it then go to?
Okay, now for the Senate, you have the president-elect settling for Godswill Akpabio, right? And Barao Jibrin for Senate leadership. And then for representative leadership, you have Messrs. Abbas Tajuddin and Ben Kalu right now. So some stakeholders are in support of the party's move. Others are against it, and they actually want a review. That is basically what is going on right now within the All Progressives Congress. Now, one would think that the party should be, at the moment, thinking of, the inauguration on May 29. There's a lot of entertainment on ground already for it in celebration. But the APC seems to be also grappling with who takes what, who represents what, and who deserves to be what. Do you think this would derail the unison of the party for the upcoming inauguration on May 29? And, of course, their case as well are the Election Petition Tribunal. Is it possible that we may see some splintered group out of this just because they're not comfortable with the zoning template?
Yeah, naturally. Don't forget, Jesus Christ had 12 disciples only, and there was a Judas. So in the gathering of men and women, and that is one funny part of politics. you find yourself in a gathering of so many people from different backgrounds who you may not have known from Adams. Even the one you may have known from Adams also changes along the line, because politics is about interest. So I'm not expecting the leadership of the APC, and especially the president-elect, not to have considered that there will be issues of this nature in choosing the leadership. So I'm expecting the president-elect and his kitchen cabinet, those close to him, to think, do a very fast thinking as far as to ensure that in resolving the whole of this issue, because you can't hide the fact that there are issues, and there are meant to be issues. Now you have chosen a Godswill Akpabio, who may not necessarily be everybody's chosen candidate, everybody's favorite, but for reasons best known to those that have chosen him, they have chosen him. So you need to also go that extra mile to reconcile those who may be aggrieved, and also to compensate those whom there is room to compensate. Then the ones that you cannot compensate, you also need to carry them along to ensure. Don't forget, like you said before, there are issues in courts. There are issues in court, and this party needs all its time to sit down with their lawyers and focus on the issues before the court. So I'm expecting them to do a swift one, reconcile these issues as soon as possible, because they're expected. And I know that the president-elect is a core politician, and things of this nature shouldn't be strange to him.
All right. Barrister John Wukete, apparently some APC stakeholders in the Northwest are not happy with the speakership and deputy Senate presidency slots. That is the zoning template. And according to them, here is what they're saying, that the Northwest gave Tinubu the highest number of votes. As the two senators elect from the zone, that is the current chairman of the Senate Committee on Appropriation, Jibrin, representing Kano North District, and former Governor Abdulaziz Yari are vying for the seat. In other words, they are insisting on producing the Senate president, a Northwest APC stakeholder. And they're saying that Tinubu, who is the candidate of the APC in the 2023 presidential election, is now the president-elect courtesy of the magnanimity and loyalty of the Northwest, which gave him the highest votes in the election, followed by the Southwest. Without the Northwest, therefore, there would not be a Tinubu presidency. Now, do you see, would I call it the state of confusion that the president-elect may find himself in? Because right now they are claiming that the Northwest gave the presidency the majority of the vote that has made him emerge as the president-elect, that made him emerge as the winner. So they feel if they are the ones who actually helped him or pushed him get to the fore, they ought to have been considered for the speakership positions, for this viable position that seems to be the top notch in the party. What do you think about that?
The first and foremost, who are they going to Senate to represent?
The people.
Who are they representing there? Are they representing the president-elect? Are they representing APs? Are they going to pass laws for good and governance of APs or the president-elect? I don't know why Africans cannot develop in their democracy. That's why we start planting roots for corruption. We start making arrangements that will eventually depletes our resources. That's look at the outgoing Senate. The level of, just imagine passing, allowing president approving $800 million just within 9 days of somebody's end of office. And we're discussing all these things. This democracy was borrowed from another country, partly from Britain and America. Do they do all these things there? Why bringing all these Nigerian factors? And we'll come back and start complaining that things are not going well in this country. All you need to do is to get someone that will serve the interest of the nation. It's not even the interest of the party. Like my friend has said something that people that will be settled and how do we settle them? What are we settling them with? Do you see positions they want to occupy? What for? For embezzlement and fraud. And to bring Nigeria down and down and down. We're already down. I know these things not set me because they don't make sense to me. You get to the Senate, you vote whoever you want to vote and get out of that place. The person settles down for work and serve the whole nation. Getting president to choose a Senate president, getting president to choose a deputy president and Senate speaker, whatever. What for? What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of being impeached? What do you want to cover? Why can't you allow them to get, in America, do they do like that? Do you see the Joe Biden going to manipulate who becomes the Senate president or leader of the House? Do they do that at all? They don't do that. I mean, we have to like begin to like allow this democracy to grow. If we cannot practice it, we'll jettison it and adopt another system of government that will suit our corrupt tendency. Because we can get something from another place and begin to do something differently. Like what you're saying now, somebody gets somebody the highest number of votes. What is that for? Do you hear that in UK or anywhere? That kind of development or participation or acknowledgement or recognition or post will be according to how people voted the president. Voting exercise is the inherent right of everybody.
The president-elect was actually, okay, they went to meet him to say, we need your input. Since you're a very
What input is the president-elect making in the choice of members of National Assembly?
Okay, but
what has the executive to do with that?
Surrender their right to the president.
That is what I'm telling you. These are like abnormalities. These are things we begin to correct. What has the president to do with another arm of government? Just like the president said that judges are coming to ask the president, how do we carry out our judicial activities? This is a separate arm of government that has to like their own independence, their own laws, everything about them. To even checkmate the president, they're different arm. What has president to do with that? This is somebody that even be a perceived enemy. This is somebody have to checkmate his excesses, checkmate his appointments, checkmate most of things he will do, bring him to your chambers to question him in line with certain rules and maybe certain errors you have committed as a president. And this is what now you are going to choose. Choose for what? For goodness sake, Nigerians should stand up and be proud of their agencies and their organizations or whatever they represent. You don't need to mix all these things up. National Assembly should be independent body that will conduct their own affairs. If somebody wants to like vie for that office, let the person come out as a senator and begin to meet other senators elect. You don't need to meet anybody in the executive. You meet your fellow senators. The campaign will be within senators elect. Go within the whole 36 state of the federation, the whole senatorial district. Campaign and talk to people what you want to do for them. Talk to Nigerians too. Because they're coming to serve Nigerians.
Barrister Murphy, you have about 316 senators and about 119 House of Representative members, and all of them are surrounding one particular man to help them decide.
I think it's the other way around.
Okay.
109 senators.
109 senators.
And
316 House of Representatives.
Yeah.
And they're all around the president-elect. They need him to guide them. They need him to decide who becomes their Senate president, who becomes the House of Representative or the House of Rep leader. The question is, we have three different arms of government. We have the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Means that each of these arms are meant to balance the other, check the other, balance the other. The president-elect has come, fine, why not let him be? Why do you need to consult him? Why do you need him to decide who represents you at the House of Representatives? Are you saying that by law you do not have the moral standing or the constitutional right to decide what you want for yourself if you're to vote based on how they lobby around and get support and then choose their own person? Why need the verification or the input of the president-elect?
You know, like I always say each time I come to your studio here, that when it comes to politics, always a different ball game entirely. The law may have specified certain procedures or conditions for certain things. But whether you like it or not, in politics and in our climate, in Africa, in Nigeria, the kind of democracy, we may have borrowed it, like my brother said, we may have borrowed it from UK, from US, and the rest of them. But bringing it back home here, there is always that Nigerian factor. That is why the Nigerian president is very powerful. The Nigerian president is very powerful. Do you know why a local government chairman in Nigeria is very powerful? You know, the governor, I don't need to tell you. That is why the state assembly in Nigeria is at the control of the governor, not in the 36 states. They only do the things the governor wants them to do. And they only don't do the things the governor doesn't want them to. So the same thing replicates itself in the president.
Level.
Yes, that is why you see, naturally, every democratically elected president wants to be interested in who becomes his Senate president. Whether being it America or anywhere, even Biden must be interested in who becomes his Senate president. Though they always will ensure that they do that without breaching the laws of the land. So I don't see anything strange in these senators trying to lobby the president-elect and those guys around the president-elect to get these key positions, because the Nigerian president is very powerful. And it's also because the political parties are so strong too, especially these two major political parties, this APC and PDP. They are so strong, and the leader of the political party is the president-elect.
But don't you think that the president, that particular power that you talked about on the president is so much? There's a reason why you have these two arms. The idea is to check the excessiveness of either one of them.
Yes,
so a situation where...
That's the position of the law.
Now, the situation where the executive, right, trumps the other arm, don't you think that there is something wrong? For example, nothing moves if the president does not consent. Even if we hear some people groan about it, it's not going to hold water so long as the executive has not given that move or the executive has not put his feet forward. The same thing too, it influences sometimes the decision of the judiciary. That is why Nigerians, let's be honest, some Nigerians, all major Nigerians, do not trust the judiciary because of something like this. So the question is, how do we correct the anomaly? One would think that our democratic process has improved to a certain level, whereby some of these things that used to be the norm, which we should consider a cake, should change. When will there be a change? When will there be a difference?
That change will come, first of all, when we, as a society, begins to change our approach to issues. These guys we're talking about today that are senators-elect, president-elect, and all that, the journey didn't begin by being a senator-elect or president-elect. The journey must have begun from the moment the parties held their primaries. The journey began from that moment where people could take money to sell. I'm talking about primaries now. People could take money to sell their votes during the primary elections, and the parties end up producing the wrong candidates, in quotes now, producing the wrong candidate because they have spent money. When a party now eventually comes up with this candidate in the name of party supreme, I'm talking basically politics and Nigerian politics. This is how we get into this. There are certain things that has been taken care of by the law, but in reality, they are very difficult to achieve. And one of them is what we're talking about. The Constitution already defines the role of the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. But then, in reality, the legislatures will always bow to the president.
Not in all cases.
You understand?
We saw Saraki and the Buhari first.
Do you think, Barrister John Wukedi, that now that the president is about to form his cabinet, with what is ongoing, that there could be an internal wrangling that could affect the formation of his cabinet?
No, he has every right to choose his kitchen cabinets. He doesn't need to consult anybody. He has absolute powers under the Constitution to do that. They are the ones that he work with, in as much as it reflects the provisions of the Constitution that 6 states of the Federation must be represented in terms of choice of ministers.
But do you know that this was the reason why he left the country?
For whatever reason he left the country.
He said he doesn't want any distraction.
For whatever reason he left the country is best known to him. Because if Nigerian situation will distract an elected president that will govern Nigeria, then I wonder when the weight of governance will be upon him, whether he will also run away, to go without being distracted. Leadership is something that must distract you. I was once a governor in the university. There was a day we had to have a criminal law rehearsal or whatever. 2 people fought in the hostel and a lot of things happened. I couldn't go. I couldn't even attend because I must put it in order. So anybody running away from the street, maybe in your room, some other people will knock. He says, something is going on somewhere. This person, something is burning somewhere. One day our hostel was almost on fire. I need to run away with my boxers to works department, to go and allow them to come and know what to do about it. I was running like a mad person in the school because they must distract me. I submitted to the will of people to vote me because I've been distracted. On boxers in the school, I was running away like a mad person because the hostel was on fire and they woke me up in my room. So anybody feeling that he is distracted by activities of leadership that you willingly submitted this, nobody forced any of them. Both Peter Obi, Atiku, Kwankwaso, Tinubu, nobody forced them to come and contest. So when I hear people saying that I need to go and rest, it pisses me off. We never begged you to come out to do that. You willingly submitted yourself. So whatever you see there, you take it. And you know the enormity of Nigeria and the enormity of our challenges and our problems for you before you submitted yourself. Now, if, like my learned friend also said, for me, we are supposed to begin to like evolve that new school of thought. We must not abide by that Nigerian system because it's not taking us anywhere. It's not, if the Nigerian system we have been practicing has to a very large extent metamorphosed into something progressive, that people are getting jobs, works are being created, things are, money is like stable, you can predict commodities and everything. But we're not getting all these things. So why must we have to begin to like dissuade the conscience of the people towards, that kind of practice. Because now, like issue of a senior president not being in agreement with the president, we found it during the time of even Okadibo and Obasanjo, even though they were from the same party, they were at loggerheads. Even during the 4 years of Saraki and Buhari, and the things were not as bad as they were now at that time. Because Saraki then prevented so many things. There are so many borrowing that the president wanted to do that they couldn't approve it. There are so many ventures that Buhari wanted to do in his first tenure that they said, no, they can't approve this. And those things were for the interest of the country. And we couldn't get it as bad as it is. Now all this borrowing, even it's 800 million pounds or whatever, within 9 days of existing office, Saraki team wouldn't have approved it. I know that we enjoyed the Senate, the Senate of that era, and yes, because several times you see clash, yes, now you see fracas between the president and the Senate president, and they never won that. Did they impeach Buhari? No. Did they stop it from doing what they checkmated him? But this kind of leadership that we want, a Senate that will be independent, a Senate that will be manned by a personality that can stand on his own, and they're the president, and yet get the support of the senators. Do you understand my point now? So we need to begin to like make moves towards that. The Senate chambers, it's not a place for the small boys.
Of course.
Some of them are former governors, some are former ministers. Some of them are like, even the president-elect, the profile he has before contesting election, majority of them actually have it there. So Abode was once a senator and two-time governor. The same pedigree with Tinubu. Tinubu is not a bigger body by rating and by education, by everything, but he's just elected as a president. So why can't he look me in the face and then talk? Some of the governors you mentioned, some of them were like former governors for 8 years. Some were senators before becoming governors. So we always find a situation. But for me, what I discovered is the cause of all these things is because of skeletons in their cupboard. They are afraid of unleashing EFCC or whatever to go and checkmate their past. Because if they have a past, they can be proud of. And what they are doing is for the interest of the nation. They'll be bold about it, they'll be confident about it, and they'll push for it.
Barrister, here is the situation. Godswill Akpabio has actually been lobbying other political parties as well, trying to ask for their support. As of this week that just ran out, he actually went to meet the Labour Party to ask for them to come together and support him. That would give him an edge. And so one would say he has been doing what he's supposed to do, lobby for support. But then he has this air of confidence based on the fact that since the president-elect has actually chosen him, there's this confidence. Where does that leave the North Central? Because they are putting their feet on the ground and saying, no, you can't leave us in the cold. You cannot have any one of us not represent. That they feel like they made the president-elect win the election. So why, if they were the core, region that helped him to win, why are they being left in the cold?
Well, I think it is within their right to make such demands.
Of course.
Whether you like it or not, politicians have a way of compensating supporters, either as individual supporters, communities, states, and all that. So I'm sure the president-elect, because we need to also understand that position does not end within the Senate and the House of Reps. There are still other positions within the government. Maybe by the time the president-elect is properly sworn in, there are still 1,000,001 positions. So all I can say is that as much as it is within their right to ask, because they say to whom much is given, much is expected, they can as well relax and wait for the man to be sworn in properly. And there will be other position to be given to them if the president thinks. But to also think that they made the president to win the election may not be absolutely correct, because almost every other part of the country played one role or the other, because every vote counts. Even those regions that you think that their votes was not that bulky, they also played a role. So I want to think and advise that they should relax themselves. The president will always have a way to compensate. They are requesting, it's politics. These things may sound odd, but I'm saying it because this is very realistic here. They will compensate such regions. Right. One way or the other, they must be compensated.
All right. Now, we'll take off a very short break, and then when we return, the conversation continues. But before we do that, remember that we're streaming live on Voice of the People TV, all right? Make sure you go on there, subscribe, be part of the conversation this evening. Voice of the People TV on YouTube, all right? And, of course, Voice of the People 90.3 FM, that's our sister station. We're also streaming live as well on that particular medium. And, of course, the phone numbers will definitely be on the screen there for you to be part of the conversation, as well as the WhatsApp number, too. We want you to join us. We'll take a short breather, and then the conversation continues. All right, you're still on the Sunday Spotlight right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM and Voice of the People TV. Now to our next story. As its name implies, the Labour Party seems to be a party that labors through a fresh trouble every week. You can't be too sure what follows what, except that one man who appears to be at the center of the crisis is Lamidi Ababa. At the moment, it seems that the prosperity of the crisis rests largely on what he does or doesn't do. But for him also, one thing appears to stand out. He has a point to prove, even if that means truncating his party's pursuit of what its presidential candidate, Peter Obi, has described as its stolen mandate. It is often said that a house divided against itself cannot stand. And my first question to our gentleman here is, if this game of musical chairs between Akpakpa and Abure continues, what hope is left for the Labour Party as far as the 2023 general election is concerned?
First of all, I don't see what is happening in Labour Party as a big issue that is bigger than the party to resolve. I've said that time without numbers. This is politicking. There are bound to be crises of this nature. All they need to do, like I said before on the program here, that Labour Party is becoming big. Whether you like it or not, Labour Party is becoming big. And there's also this aspect that they need to consider. There are two factions of this party now. Those who are the Aboriginal Labour Party members and the obedience movement that has come to merge with the party, that has given them the wider spread that they now enjoy. That is supposed to be a plus for them. But that they do not understand or expect that crisis will come is what I will not understand. Now there is crisis, and it's about leadership tussle. Apapa wants to be seen as the chairman, national chairman of the party. Aburi wants to be seen as the national chairman of the party. Issues like this exist in virtually all the parties. Issues like this exist in virtually every organization, including non-political organizations, every organization. If there are people who aspire to lead, and there are always clash of interest. So I'm saying that if they can come together and reconcile genuinely, the former Labour guys, which is the group of this Apapa, who claims that he has been in the party for the past 20-something years, who was also their former national chairman. if they can genuinely come together with this new obedience, when I mean obedience movement, I mean these people who have come with Peter Obi that has given the party this new look, this wider spread popularity and that have brought them to where they are today. Then this sky is bright for them. But that they will allow Apapa to be speaking in another terms, and the labor movement. The other day I was watching a video where one of the lawyers to Peter Obi was addressing Apapa as Pampas.
Let me hold that thought. We do have, that was Kenneth Okonkwo. We actually have him giving a statement after the court process whereby he defended the fact that there was no faction within the Labour Party. Let's take a listen to that.
It's an actor now. You know, it's not a fully trained life.
Yeah, of course.
Give us 70% of the evidence they claim that they have. It is sad. Very sad. And the court, taking judicial notice of it, and has advised all parties to do the needful. And I keep maintaining that INEC should come clean to Nigerian people. In court, there's nothing like technical glitches. The activity of the umpire that announced a result which they could not give the CTC to the people of Nigeria that voted for the election. How can you announce a result you don't have? That is what should trouble us, because the law made it clear. By the time, and I'm talking about section 62, subsection 2 and 3 of the Electoral Act, before you even announce a result, you should have the CTC waiting, the complete, from polling unit to polling unit, from ward to ward, from local government to local government, from state to state. You should have the CTC from the National Electronic Register of Election Results. Now, you have an INEC that 2-3 months after that could not give us 70% of the evidence they claim that they have. It is sad. Very sad. And the court has taken judicial notice of it and has advised all parties to do the needful. And I keep maintaining that INEC should come clean to Nigerian people. In court, there's nothing like technical glitches. The judges are not technicians. They are there to deliver justice. So what we are simply saying is, the evidence of what you said you did, give to us so we can prepare our case. Thank you.
When is the course, when is
2023.
Was the issue of online transmission addressed in court today?
Not really, because what we are saying in effect is that if we don't have the evidence, because last time the court sat, the council, we are to meet to check all the documents and the evidence and know the ones that they will admit and the ones they will object to. So how can you go to such a meeting when you have not gotten the evidence, the official evidence that you need? So that's what we produced and presented to the court today. So we are optimistic that INEC will do the needful, give us all the evidence so that we can fulfill what we would have done before now. I don't want to remind you, if you were in court, you will know some of those.
Kenneth Okonkwo, who was actually telling the reporters outside the court there the essentiality of INEC having to prove, especially the results that they claim was uploaded at the IRF portal, to make provisions and make it available at the court so everyone can see visibly what the results were like. That is, course, is one of the issues, or rather one of the causes at the petition that the Labour Party put out there. But then we're talking about the fact that would I call it the internal wrangling within the Labour Party and Papa being booed out of the court. Barrister John Wokedi, I'm sure that particular day, I think that was on Monday, yes, when the tribunal resumed. And apparently what happened at the court was that Papa went in there and, where it got to a point where it was like, get up, I am the chairman of the Labour Party. And then before you know, we heard the back and forth. It almost turned to a situation where there were blows. Now, Lamidi Papa came out and some youth pushed him and said, we do not know you. We do not recognize you. You're not part of the party. Somebody actually took off his cap, and he was vehement, he was angry about that. He eventually released a press conference and said that in that press conference, he literally blamed Peter Obi and Julius Abure for sponsoring those thugs to push him out of the court, to beat him up. He said he almost died. He was almost lynched to death. One would think that possibly maybe he exaggerated, but here is the scenario. The Labour Party it almost feels like some persons have been bought over, even though Lamidi Papa said he wasn't bought over. He did not collect any money. But one would that it seems his action speaks otherwise. Barrister John Wokedi, do you think so?
I don't know. The old man, the first time he emerged, people speculated there was an assignment given to him to frustrate the matter at the tribunal. And shortly after he emerged, he had a press conference and said he's going to withdraw the case from the tribunal, thus confirming the speculation, the projection of the people that a certain political candidate or an individual sponsored him to, unleash all this mayhem and crisis and catastrophe on the party, with a view of distracting the party and then maybe withdrawing the case or causing problem there. Along the line again, when the heat actually became so intense, he said something. Okay, he's going to support the party to reclaim the stolen mandates. So people were like, but initially you made a statement you are going to withdraw the case. That's now you are saying you are going to reclaim a stolen mandate and all that. So he's a bit confused. Public court is one of the most debilitating thing that can happen to any man. Because if you are subjected to public court, even if you are bribed, your family members might at a point become quite, inundated with abuses and names and other things. And they'll be talking to your friends, your classmates, your schoolmates. At that point, you get into a situation that you might be so much confused that, do I continue with this project? But the point is quite clear. The Lamidi issue is not affecting the matter in court. Last time that matter came to court, Peter Obi stood up and saying he's representing himself and the Labour Party. So there was no room for someone to announce himself as either the national chairman of the party after Peter Obi has announced himself. So I believe that actually sorted out that issue of conflict of who the court will recognize legally as the chairman of the party. Because that room of someone announcing after Peter Obi has announced, Peter Obi announced for himself and on behalf of the party. And court took that, that presentation as, as a procedure and proceeded with the hearing of the case. So, but last time Lamidi Papa had that ugly encounter in the court was when there was a judgment that was given by a judge that has a kind of restraint order and other things that purportedly, empowered him to, act the way he acted, because there was an appeal, preliminary objection brought by lawyers of the other faction of Labour Party, urging the court not to, vested with jurisdiction to handle the matter before the court, which court overruled and pronounced that the court has jurisdiction to proceed with the matter. And I think a restraint order or something of that nature was also one of the accompanying pronouncements of the court. That actually empowered Papa to come to court, I think last Monday, with that boldness and courage. But he met a situation that was quite ugly. I don't think that P2B or Julius Abure might sponsor people to beat anybody up. They're not that kind of personalities. Obedient movement, if you watch the clip of what is going on, some people are praying in front of the court, some people are around the court carrying placards, some people are just there, and they are seeing Lamidi Papa, someone that is sponsored to truncate that proceedings. So naturally, his presence there will irritate them. If not, like the court is a more organized atmosphere, they can kill him. If he's to come to like a normal convention with that crowd, a normal crowd of disobedient people, mostly young people that are like with their level of dissatisfaction with what happened during the election, the way election went and other things, they can kill him. So I want to like advise him to guide himself very well with respect to places he goes to and places, he may decide to, visit. Because these people are down, the picture out there, which to a very large extent might be believable, is that he's being sponsored. And people have bought into that. But luckily for the Labour Party, the appeal court, because the other faction, Julius Abure faction, went to appeal court to seek for order of that high court to be quashed. And the court graciously granted them that application. So that's temporal coloration of Apapa as the national chairman based on his own whatever interpretation that gave him that appellation. The appeal court has nullified it.
All right.
So going forward, except if they now go to proceed to Supreme Court to get a final pronouncement on that, I'm not sure he will still present himself in that manner unless
Barrister Murphy, this next question is for you. But before I ask that question, I actually want us to listen to Ayobami Arabambi. This was before the pronouncement came up whereby the candidature or the win of Alex Otti of Abia State and others in Kano, where the court order came that the votes had been wasted. And of course, before Alex Otti responded and said the reports should be dismissed, purporting the nullification of his candidature, he says that that particular report is dead on arrival. However, let's listen to Ayobami Arabambi claiming that Peter Obi and Julius Abure were the ones actually responsible for that particular judgment coming up. Let's listen to him say that.
Yes, I hereby read out my press release and response to that effect. Alleged threat to life by Arabambi, a joke taken too far. News recently went around where they embattled Mr. Abayomi Arabambi, former personal assistant to Barrister Julius Abure, my Labour Party national chairman, where he alleged very strongly that I sent him a message that I was directed by His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi to attack him or any other person at the tribunal. Ordinarily, I would have laughed over such unsubstantiated and unfounded accusation. But for the benefit...
I think there's a mistake from the technical team. There's a mix-up there. We actually do have an audio whereby Arabambi made a statement where he talked about the fact that Peter Obi and Julius Abure were the ones responsible for the situation with Alex Otti. They literally said that within the 30 days stipulated and that the Labour Party did not submit a candidate's name. He also accused Kenneth Okonkwo, saying that Kenneth is just going about and saying words and making statements that are not true, and saying that politics is deep and strategic. And he literally said that this is not Nollywood whereby one just acts, that it's beyond just words. There is more action to it. I think the technical team now has a correct audio where that particular press conference was organized by Arabambi, where he clearly, vehemently stated that the particular scenario with the governorship, the only governorship candidate they had, is in jeopardy. All right. While they try to sort that out, I'll ask you again. It's unfortunate the situation as we have here, because when we think that in as much as there are issues within the party, when we think that the mandate is one voice, Peter Obi is standing firm that the Labour Party won the elections. Some other critics will say, but if you won, how comes you did not come second? If you won, how comes when it came to House of Representatives, you did not have majority of that represented, as you say? And then if you eventually do say you won, that means you're going to have to fight the result of the People's Democratic Party. But one thing stands true. The People's Democratic Party and the Labour Party are saying that they actually have results or proof to state that they won. And now the situation with the only governorship candidate they have, whereby everyone, we could see how that particular result emerged. The drama that took place before that name was actually announced. And Arababi is blaming the Labour Party principal and also blaming the chairperson, Julius Abure, for what transpired. Do you think that is setting a good tone for the party?
Not at all. Not at all. It's actually...
Hold that thought. I think the technical team is ready now for the audio.
Buri, in conjunction with Mr. Peter Obi, immediately after our primary, succeeded in Kano today to nullify all primary done by Labour Party in Abia and Kano. And by implication, I know this will definitely affect the sole government candidate that we have. And the reason was that Abure, as the then chairman, refused to submit membership register to INEC 30 days before the primary. It was an ex parte motion application brought by one Haruna Ibrahim. He used to be our chairman in that place before he was removed. And I think the man went to court, to ventilate the tanga. This is quite unfortunate. But this is the only governorship candidate this is the only governor that we have in Labour Party. And yet, due to this attitude of Abure, in conjunction with Mr. Peter Obi, to just be toying with people aspiration, with people good intention for the party, this has cost us greatly. As I speak, they did not present any lawyer to represent Labour Party in Federal Court Kano. They did not, because when you have committed such crime, they ought to be sniffing around the court to know those at least who will, be attacking them. Also, they were in Kano today to submit an ex parte application against a Bachovu Lamida-led executive, where they want the court to set aside the judgment of FCTI court. I kept wondering, Abure that called himself a lawyer, running up and down, against what they call for this forum shopping. You are in Benin, he filed a motion ex parte, he knew he had made a mistake, only for him to run to Kano. Kano, where we have our head office in Abuja here, he ran to Kano through one Raji and a pastor as the chairman of the party there. And we got to win, and we asked our lawyer to appear. We are now being told to put on notice, though, that their ex parte application has failed. Also, they filed an application that we should not be allowed to touch the money in Zenith Bank. By themselves, they know they have their reason, and it's part of what is causing problem in Labour Party. Himself and PO snatched away $15 million of Labour Party money, and that was the reason why, up to today, PO stood by Abure. So how could you from here run to Kano, seeking an ex parte application to stop Bachovu Papa from taking over that account that belongs to Labour Party? But they have been told to put us on notice. We will expose. Our lawyer has just, gotten the document. He's on his way to Kano. We don't want to expose him so that they will not go and kidnap him on the way. But once he gets to Abuja, everything will do another press conference to show all of you that they have a sinister motive for them. We are operating UBA account, and suddenly they went to open another Zenith Bank account that all of us are not privy to. But only for them to run to court in Kano to prevent us, even when they have filed appeal against the one in Abuja here, they have already appealed the dismissal of the preliminary objection they raised against the ruling of the FCTI court. But we were shocked to hear that they have filed an appeal against the dismissal of their preliminary objection. So what we are saying is this, that we are now at the verge of losing the only governor that we have due to gross incompetence of Abure, the suspended national chairman, in connivance with Mr. Peter Obi, because they were the one that were toying with all the northern states then. All of you remember, in the constitution of the Presidential Campaign Committee, all the northern states.
Just listen to the Factional Publicity Secretary of the Labour Party there, where he organized a press conference talking about the fact that there's jeopardy with the only governorship candidate they have in the Labour Party. Again, Murphy, this question is going to be for you because it's ironical that it was a party member who actually filed that case to the Kano court. So what exactly is Arabambi saying that it is Julius Abure and Peter Obi's fault for what transpired, for the judgment that was given, or for the jeopardy concerning the governorship seat of Alex Otti?
You have to understand that we have two different factions of a particular political party fighting themselves. At least I've watched the video. There are allegations upon allegations. Only God knows how authentic those allegations are. But it's quite unfortunate that our politicians don't learn. Our politicians don't learn nothing. After 2015 elections, after President Muhammadu Buhari won against Jonathan, there came so many other issues, crises within the party, because of the fact that there were several other political parties that came together to give them that victory. You had the CDC faction, you had the PDP faction, the AC faction, and all of that. If we heard, so that cost, they will eventually resolve that. But you cannot, as a politician, forget the losses that they encounter, the crisis, the loss. Because that was eventually what also led to people like Saraki becoming Senate president against the wish of some other factions of the party. So if politicians learn, I'm sure these persons in labor today would not have allowed all this to happen. Look at, he mentioned money. I told you, politics is all about interest, and interest. It's mentioning money and there's any bank and account, and those are the things. Position, money, those are the interests of politicians. And I am saying that all of these issues can be better resolved within them and for them and by themselves. All you need to do is call them. I've said it before, and I'm challenging Peter Obi again. Have a roundtable discussion with these persons. Forget about whoever that is going to court. Have a roundtable discussion. Renegotiate. Politics is about lobbying and negotiations. Renegotiate, because you are the presidential candidate. You are the leader. I've said that a couple of years. You are the leader. Call all of them together. Renegotiate. Give this to this. Give this to this. Tell this to hold on. Tell this to hold on. And before you know, you have one house. You can't go to fight yourself while your oppositions are waxing stronger.
All right.
Meanwhile, you have a bigger challenge. You have a case in court.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Barrister Murphy. Now, there's this particular unfortunate scenario whereby we have the outbreak of violence and the killing of dozens of community members in Mangu, Plateau State on Monday precisely, and it has continued to send shock waves across the entire state, with the affected people making demands for a special court that will address the grievances and deliver justice. Now, suspected headsmen were reported to have launched attacks on several communities, including Fongzai and Kubwat, both villages in Mangu local government area. They burned houses, they destroyed farmlands, and killed more than 100 people. Now, according to Solomon Marin, a member of the House of Representatives from Mangu Bokos Federal Constituency, 17 communities in Plateau State were affected. This is just as leaders of the communities have accused the federal government and the police of lacking the capacity and political will to defend minority tribes in the state, while pointing out the inability of the state governor, Simon Lalong, to show up and sympathize with them. It's a very tragic scenario, actually, in Plateau State. Remember that we had the same rush in Benue, where a lot of persons were killed, community members were killed, farmland destroyed, pillages continued. They even went to the IDP camps to continue the killing. And now the same mayhem is taking place in Jos. It's a very unfortunate scenario whereby questions are being asked by critics. What exactly is going on? How come we have not had anybody say anything about this? We've not seen the police set up a team in Plateau State whereby they are saying we have apprehended these individuals. These killings continue and nobody has been caught. No name has been mentioned. No team has been put in place to strategically flush out these headers who continue to brazenly commit these mayhem, and innocent persons have died, blood being shed. We have Solomon Daliop who will be joining us virtually to actually give us the true scenario of what is going on in Plateau State, how these killings occurred, what could it be? Is it an ethnic cleansing? Is there a fight between tribes in Plateau State that no one knows about? How comes the state governor does not have the spine to actually do something about it? How come also that a military team has not been set out to go in there and flush out the individuals responsible for this mayhem? Good evening and welcome to the Sunday Spotlight, Solomon Daliop. All right, while he joins us, I think it's a virtual thing, he's yet to join us because he would have given us a precise scenario. He's going to paint the picture of what exactly is going on. It was so bad. You may see how I sound passionate about this, but it's really a sad scenario when people die needlessly and there is no particular reason why these killings continue. It happened in southern Kaduna, in Benue, in Plateau State, in Borno State. The killings just continue and we're not seeing anyone apprehend. Barrister Joe Nwokedi, this question is for you. Plateau is in the news again, and it's not for the best of reasons. Why do we keep having these things happening, and then we're not hearing any arrest of these individuals?
The Plateau matter is becoming something beyond comprehension, and I'm always very, very emotional about anything from Plateau. You may not know. I did my NYC in Plateau. I won State Honors Award. I served in real local government. I know Mango, I know Bakamad, I know Bokos, I know Bakas, I know Passion, I know many of them. I know places. I was head of NYC HCC Integrity Club, anti-corruption. So I moved to so many local governments, then as a copper, talking about the issue of corruption or whatever. I addressed so many local government workers and even some COP members. So it's a state I know very well. Bukuru, all these things, just not. I know them very well. So, and I have my boys there. I cannot win State Honors Award without having, CDS and projects we did in the community. And there with so many of them. This Daliop, Manchad, Ilia Demo, so many of them. I know them there. So I know their tradition, them, that church and all those things, So whenever something happens in Plateau State, it touches me very, very well. And it has been happening. Because even when we are there, early 2000, mid-2000, we have history of wars, a kind of all these kangaroo wars that from nowhere, people would just like launch attack into the community. But it wasn't as widespread as it is now then. It was a concentrated fight that was in Just North. That was even when the Just markets, main markets, was actually affected. One of the most beautiful markets in Nigeria. They actually bombed that market at that time. So they told us a tribute of story of all those harmful attacks. But unfortunately, it kept on becoming bigger and bigger. And now, let me borrow from Sheikh Sani that actually made a statement when this issue was made bare to the public. He said it's no longer a clash between herdsmen and the community. It's just like intentional strategy to kill people, a form of ethnic cleansing. Because he said that initially there's always they killed a cow, the cow strayed into the farmland, and one cow was killed. There was a retaliatory kind of fight that the people went back to like. But now they don't see any of these, issues coming up from out of whatever is beyond somebody's understanding or interpretation. It will launch attack into a village and massacre unprotected, unarmed people, untrained people, without any provocation, and you can come out to say, okay, look at why you did this. You don't even have respect for blood. And again, you know, there was the former governor, Jonah Jang, actually made a statement which was very, very suspicious. And I called my boys there. They said, what the governor said was true, that if that killing is going on for hours, call all the police people within the states, there will be no response. They have army cantonment, I think, in Wase. Call that army cantonment, the head of army there, there will be no response. Until when they have perfect done what they want to do. And 2 hours after they will have gone, then you see all of them appear. So it seems as if there is, and there was a time, because I have to be blunt, because for us to like get solutions to these problems, we have to become very, very blunt and non-diplomatic. Because most of the things that destroy the soul of this country is being excessively diplomatic. Me, sometimes I'll tell you I don't want to be diplomatic. I have to say it the way it is. If you don't want to like my face, don't like me. Go ahead, please. Go ahead. The point is that there was somebody that was from the Southwest that happened to be a Christian that was sent to head that Plateau cantonment. And during the tenure of that person, there was no killings. They couldn't kill anybody. Even there was one of them. There was a place that was a handful of crisis. He arrested people, and the call came to Abuja, and he transferred them to Abuja. He said no, he's going to prosecute them. He paraded them, and I think you remember that scenario. And there was a query from Abuja: why will you parade them? Wow. Why will you parade? They said no, these are the people that were caught as being responsible for this massacre. And I think later they changed him. He was removed as head of that military command in Plateau State, and someone from the north brought into that place, and the killing started. And there was cover again. So we now look at it. Is it a masterminded, you know, kind of arrangement to like reduce the population of these people, kill these people, take over their land, or just waste their lives? And funny enough, these people are neighbors. Look at what you see there now. If you look at the map of Plateau State, you see Kaduna, you see Bauchi, you see Nasarawa, you see, you know, the other side of it. These are northern brothers. I would have actually loved us to have
what is the problem? Solomon Dali.
And you know what? Not the problem again.
He was with us on Political Voice, where he had an extensive conversation with Moses Humphrey, and he described precisely most of the reasons, what the reasons are, and how comes it almost feels like security operatives are also complicit in this whole situation. He would have been a very good person to give us a description of what's currently going on in Plateau State and the killings, because it's become a consecutive pattern. We had it in Benue, in southern Kaduna as well. In fact, that place is like the home.
You know how they live there, which I'll always also advise them. They don't have kind of, they live like in settlements. They don't live in a well-protected place, and they don't even fence. I'm telling you where we serve. You can just see from here to like to airports, from here to like Ikeja. It's open. So I will also advise they'll begin to build fences. And when they live in, because a group of Plateau people might decide to like, there's a place they call outside realm then. When you get to that place, it might take like almost 1 hour before you get to that community.
In Birom?
Yeah, from Birom.
It's not Lantang.
Birom is just after forest. Okay. As you're entering, before you get to Mango, this place that this happened now. Before I now get to Bukuru and the rest of it, it's a place I serve. They're not protected. So they have to begin to like find a way to protect themselves, begin to get this concept of building fences. Because where there is massacre, they live in, you know, they are mostly farmers. They have all these farmlands around, so they settle within their farmlands, cultivate, go to farm. If it rains, I taught in school that if it rains, you hardly see them in school. If it's their markets, they hardly come to school. They go to sell their products. They're mostly farmers, so they can easily launch attack on these people. So the Plateau people also begin to like fence their places. If you live in a hamlet like that, get to your representatives, get money to protect. Because you know in the southern Nigeria here, it will be difficult to massacre 100 persons. How can you jump all the fences, finish up, jump into another compound, finish up before you jump into another compound? That's the point. Alarm must have been raised. But this, they will set up the whole those settlements, set it ablaze, people that will now come out from those places, they begin to shoot them.
Barrister Murphy, this time around, it's even beyond killing. They burn houses. They
set the houses on fire for people to come out.
That's
as you're coming out, they'll start shooting you.
They shoot, they slaughter.
They have invited me to that community. I refused to go. I thought because if I come there, people may gather to celebrate me, and attack will come and I might be killed.
All right, Barrister Murphy, before you respond to that, you can actually be part of the conversation this evening. Like I told you, we're virtually streaming on YouTube. You can watch us virtually and be part of the conversation. It's a Voice of the People TV, VOP 90.3 FM on YouTube. So you subscribe. Once you subscribe, once any program is upcoming right on this particular channel, you will definitely get notified and, of course, be part of the conversation. The number to call is 0700 903 903 903. 0700 903 903 903. The WhatsApp number is 0700 903 9039. It's 0700 903 9039. We're trying to get across to Solomon Daleb. I really do want him to come in here to this conversation because he'll be in the best position to actually tell us precisely what transpired there and what exactly is a bone of contention. How comes these individuals have not been apprehended? We've not heard anything about the security operators apprehending this individual and the brazenness of these individuals for the machete, the pillaging, the killing, the mayhem, the destruction of farmlands, lives, and property worth millions of naira. Literally made Plateau State a state that seems to be unattractive for investment. That used to be the peace of the nation, one of the coolest, calm states in Nigeria. Now it's become a hotbed, a trouble bed. It's not a good thing for us. Now let's go back to the conversation that we actually had. Yes, more than 100 bodies recovered in Mangu. Solomon Daleb said it's actually more than that. So you recall during the week too when Anthony Blinken, who is the U.S. Secretary of State, actually called President-elect Tinubu saying that they intend to strengthen ties with Nigeria now that he is the president-elect. And Peter Obi actually responded to that particular exchange. He said, why would you call the president-elect when you do know that there are pending issues at the Election Petition Tribunal? You're supposed to wait and see how the tribunal, ends before you now begin to call and make assertions or whatsoever. And then Festus Keyamo said via Twitter, it was quite a long tweet actually there. He said that Peter Obi is throwing tantrums. He said the U.S. is even aware that you lost. And you're literally throwing tantrums, and your tantrums will not change anything. In fact, he went on to say that that is not the business of Peter Obi, whom Anthony Blinken decides to call, and what kind of conversation he has with the president-elect. So this is basically what he says. He says, Your Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi, I am sorry, but there is clarity as to the basis of the U.S. Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken's call to act official part, and their pledge for support and cooperation. It's obvious that you and your supporters have overrated your noise. In fact, he went on to say that Atiku supporters, the PDP, Peter Obi supporters are actually behaving like Trump. He literally said that. He says that they are behaving like Trump. So he went on to say that it is obvious that you and your supporters have overrated your noise and tantrums after the election as having any real effect internationally. No, they have not had any such massive effect as you would wish. He said, unfortunately for you, the U.S. has dealt with so many opposition figures around the world, and they know exactly how to separate facts from fiction. They know you lost fair and square. They know that in a complex society like Nigeria, you could not have won your message of religious war. That is just a little basically what he said. They said, they know you are just a splinter. Hear this particular phrase. They know you are just a splinter of the main opposition, the PDP. So Festus Keyamo is literally saying, the Labour Party, we don't even recognize you. Our main opposition is actually the People's Democratic Party. So it amounts to delusions of grandeur to think that you won when you actually came third. They also know the declaration of a winner already announced by INEC has the force of law and is the only acceptable legal framework upon which to proceed than your petition in court that is yet to be decided upon. You really want this country to stand still because you have a case in court? Is that what we have practiced in this country for decades? The minister added that Obi's pontifications about the presidential election were worrisome. So in this particular statement or tweet from Festus Keyamo, he's saying that what Peter Obi is preaching for is not the right way to go. He's saying the country should not stand still just because you think that you won the elections. And what particular way do you think you won? When you came third, you had the PDP come second. And so he likened Atiku Abubakar's supporters, Labour Party supporters, as individuals or persons or group who are acting like Trump. Would you know that Trump was a controversial person? What's your take on this particular statement from Festus Keyame?
Well, Keyamo is doing his job. And whatever he expresses at this point is just his personal opinion. Even if I personally agree with him to a reasonable extent.
You agree with him?
Yes, in the sense that election has taken place. A winner has been declared by INEC, and as provided by law, by our laws here, those who lost the election have gone to courts. Their petitions are before the court already, and the best thing to do is to patiently wait for the pronouncement of the court, because there cannot be a vacuum. That is one point here. There cannot be a vacuum. And the American Secretary of State is only officially doing what that particular office of the Secretary of State requires him to do to address the Nigerian president-elect. We could have been not Tinubu now as an individual. This president could have been Obi, Atiku, or any other person. That was more like saying, yeah, the American government is willing to work with Nigeria. The American government is willing to cooperate, give necessary assistance if need be. So for me, if I were Peter Obi, I wouldn't even bother myself about that. There are cases in court. Whether you like it or not, that was why I even said in some other program that maybe we may need to, first of all, go back to our constitution. Maybe we should have a constitutional review. If really that we want a situation whereby a president or a governor or any other elected person should not be sworn in until all petitions, all cases before the court are dispensed with. That sounds fantastic. That sounds great. It means that you must tinker with the constitution for, because the way it is now, there must be an inauguration come May 29th. And whether you like it or not, the moment there's an inauguration, a president becomes. And he begins to act as the president of the Federal Republic, and nations will begin to relate with him as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Do you think him being inaugurated on May 29 will affect the decision? Do you think came before the May 29 inauguration? Do you think that would affect the proceedings at the election?
I don't think it should.
You don't think so? All right. Remember that the number to call is 0700 903 903 903. And then I recall that I told you that we're waiting for Solomon Daliop to actually join us. Solomon, good evening and welcome to the Sunday Spotlight. Hello, Solomon, can you hear me? Solomon Daliop, good evening and welcome to the Sunday Spotlight. All right, I was told by my producer that Solomon Daliop is in, and the idea is he actually would have given us a picture of the current situation in Plateau State, specifically Mango, where over 100 bodies have been recovered. The last conversation Solomon had with VOP TV on Political Voice, there he gave a description of what transpired in that particular local government, and Solomon said the figures are actually more than that. All right, hello, good evening and welcome to the Sunday Spotlight. Your name and location, please.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. How are you? Welcome to the Sunday Spotlight.
Yeah, fine. Thank you. My name is Andrew. I'm calling from Songwater.
All right. How is Songwater this evening?
Yeah. Just few questions and few contributions.
Okay.
We all know what is going on in our country. And God has decided the country to be great. But some people that are bent on making sure Nigeria remains at a starting point. Now, gentlemen on the studio, I would just want to ask one question.
Please, can you project louder? We can't really hear what you're saying. Well, I don't know if it's the volume
thank you
here
very
that
much.
is
Are you hearing me now clearly?
Yes, I can hear you. Please, production team, can you include that? Thank you very much. Continue, please.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead now. We can hear you audibly now.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I say that Nigeria is destined by God to be great. There are some people have decided to make Nigeria to remain at one spot. I have two questions. Number one, the Vice President of Tribunal, there was this news that former Boko Haram man was found in his residence. That's one question. Has he denied that the same person is vying to be the vice of this country? Number one. Number two, all the killings in the north, all the resolved life in the north, what has law enforcement agents, what have they done to ensure that life is not lost? Now, the man in the studio said that Tinubu was declared winner. Before somebody is declared winner, that person is bound to have met all the requirements. Now, that man in the studio, how did he view this election? Was it free and fair? Was it free and fair? Now, when the matter is in court now, the President-elect.
Okay.
Now, is he above the law? All this while, Obi has been in court, but he has not showed up in court. What's behind that? I need lesson on that, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for calling. 0700 903 903 903. That is the number to call. 0700 903 903 903. And the WhatsApp number is 0700 903 9039. We're streaming on YouTube. It's at Voice of the People TV, as well as VOP 90.3 FM. Barrister Jane Wokedi, the man asked the question. What's your response?
The issue he raised...
Sorry, the man made mention of Boko Haram. So
I
didn't get that.
No, that time that the guy that was alleged to have been involved in that Catholic church...
Yes, bombing.
In Abuja.
In Abuja was found there.
In his house.
Borno State government's house.
Okay, Shetima.
Borno State government has Shetima.
Okay.
I think that issue has actually been in the public domain for a long time now. It was even the time of former President Jonathan that incident occurred. And I believe that the government of that time wouldn't have actually handled that issue if there was a direct link, if it was firmly established with evidential proof that Shetima was behind that Kabiru Sokoto's bombing of that Catholic church in Madala, Abuja then. So, you know, things might happen. You might put things together and then conjecture. But unfortunately, law doesn't work on conjectures. And I believe in governments in power, then government of Jonathan, which I believe might not be, I don't know, might not be, they're not in the same party with Borno State government. They are in that kind of romantic political affair with Borno State government. They would have actually looked into that issue critically. And if a course of action has arisen, if they have seen a reason to prosecute the governor, then either he has immunity or whatever, they will have indicted him. Because I believe the DSS and other law enforcement agencies who have gone into action to unravel the connection between that Rabiu Sokoto and the current vice president. I know where there was a conspiracy. And if they have found that there was any, at least he would have been prosecuted after he left office, where immunity would no longer avail him from any prosecution. So for me, it's something that I believe that governments ought to do. And if they fail to do it, or if they don't have a nexus, a connection between him, direct link between him and that commission of that offense, then I don't think he'll be prosecuted. And also the Kabiru Sokoto of a person, he didn't come to court to establish the fact that actually Shetima sent him there. You know, we speak like lawyers. That's why people might not feel comfortable with what we say. But mostly we don't speak by passion, by emotion, and by morals. We're not trained to speak morally. We're not preachers. We're not pastors and priests. We speak what the law is. And
Hello,
what the
good
law ought to
evening.
be.
Hello, good evening.
Then on the second issue of a matter in court.
Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Name and location, please.
Good evening. There is a question I want to ask concerning all this killing on different states.
All right.
It means that governor of the state have no power to fight for the state concerning all those killing in different Anambra and Ebonyi state and this state we mentioned before.
Plateau.
Yes, it means that their government have no power to fight for their state or not.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Okay. Questions are coming in.
They forgot that governors are not the commander-in-chief of security apparatus. These are part of the handicaps that the state executives, the governors, experience in Nigerian kind of democracy we practice. You have the commissioner of police, not answerable to you, answerable to IG of police. You have the army formations in your state, not answerable to you, but answerable to chief of army staff or chief of general staff. You can only call the chief of general staff to complain or to talk to the army formation in the states for them to act. So they are not, they're under the control, they don't have the, although they are chief executive officer of the states, but they don't have the powers to control security apparatus in the states. They don't control the DSS, they don't control the police, they don't control the armies. So the only thing they do is to provide some logistics or support to encourage them to like work, but they don't give orders to them.
All right,
And they don't even have the powers to
903 903. We need your calls now.
tell people to carry arms. Don't it, like the former the governor of Benue State, Dr. Alton, wanted to like go out of his way to tell people to carry arms and defend themselves, citing self-defense. But the federal government frowned at that. So people, the governors are handicapped.
Hello, good evening. Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine.
All right. This
my
is the
name is Nkechi. I'm calling from Ogun State.
Nkechi, thank you for joining us.
Yes. You're welcome. I'm calling concerning of P2B case.
Okay.
In this election that was just finished. I will even tell Obi, if I can talk to him, I will tell him to just leave everything. Let him leave everything. Let's know how this new government will rule this country. Let him just leave everything for God. And also, I'm telling my fellow Igbo people that are for this our presidential election in Nigeria. They should just stop contesting, is what I'm saying from my mind. They should stop it because there is no way they can be, and they can allow them to enter there. Even for them to contest as a second, as a vice, that is an insult. Let them just these two tribes. I'll select them be ruling this country. Let's see how everything will land, because I know that the Lord we are serving will turn everything around. Because I'm not happy how they are treating Igbos. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. 0700 903 903 903. 0700 903 903 903. We're talking about the fact that the president-elect has returned to the country ahead of inauguration. Also, the APC quagmire where we have senators specifically from the North Central saying that they have been left in the cold, whereby they also need themselves to be represented, and they seem to be a strong opposing contending force for the speakership position as well as the Senate president. The president-elect and the National Working Committee of the All Progressives Congress have actually chosen those who they think should be fielded in that position. We went ahead to talk about the issues in Labour Party, whereby Peter Obi Abure been accused of the situation that occurred outside the court earlier in the week. Hello, good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Mr. Ford Makanayo. Yeah, I want to contribute on your program.
Please, Mr. Where are you calling us from? Where's your location?
I'm calling from Amuwodofu.
All right, please go ahead.
You see, you pointed out killing, especially in the middle belt.
Okay.
You know, and you see, the young man that is speaking with us has already cleared the whole thing. When the governor of a state does not have power over the security in the state, you don't expect any change. See, this killing has been going on and will continue going on unabated. Nobody has come up to say this or that or tell us when this killing will stop, you know. And it's going on and going on, and the government is not doing anything about it, you know. I just pray that God will touch their hearts. I know that those people dying, they are also human beings like them. They are human beings like them.
Okay.
Understand? And they also have relatives. Understand? So that, you know, Nigeria, please, if we cannot pray for this country to change, let us change this country, please. Understand?
All right, thank you.
One is getting tired, yes. One is getting tired.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Hello, good evening. I think we also have another call coming in. Good evening. Hello, good evening. All right, the number to call is 0700 903 903 903 0700 903 903 903, and you can actually subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's Voice of the People TV, the OP 90.3 FM. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening.
Good evening. I can hear you. Name and location, please.
Yes. You can spotlight.
All right, go ahead.
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
See, what is happening in the north, when you look at our politics, you look at the army, you look at the police, you look at how they recruit, and you look at other agencies, you see that they are not in unity. That is the problem going on. Secretly, we don't know, you cannot know yourself. Nobody can know, except you put eyesight. Then you see what is going on. So there is no way it can be rectified, except we call all these agencies together and ask the questions, what is going on? Then we will start getting the roots.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. In a minute, Pastor Jokos, we need to round off. What's your take on most of the issues we've actually talked about today?
For Senate presidency and that of House of Reps, I will advise that members of the National Assembly should be allowed to choose the person that will sit at the helm of affairs of their chambers, especially someone that will come up with the real intention of getting that department, which is checkmating the executive and ushering in good governance to the people. For issue of the killings in Plateau State, it is highly condemnable. I told you I have emotional kind of attachment to Plateau State. Yes. So it's quite surprised, shocking to me that a human being would just waste another human being joyfully, go home and happy about that. And government should kind of strengthen the security apparatus in the states and find out a new strategy for how to contain all these killings, not using the old method.
Right,
so life will be saved.
In a minute, so round up.
Yeah, I think I must use this opportunity to say that the governor of Plateau State should re-strategize. Enough of fighting this insurgents. I don't know if I should call them insurgents, with the conventional way. Each time they attack, you invite the police, you invite the army, and it's not yielding any results. So you should re-strategize, and if I'm to suggest, I will ask the governor to begin to work with the locals. Work with the traditional rulers who have direct one-on-one relationship with their people. Let them work with local security outfits. And I think that maybe with assistance from the police and other security agencies can make a difference. But enough of fighting it with a conventional means that has not changed anything.
All right. Okay, so that brings us to a wrap right here on the Sunday Spotlight. My name is Esther Wachiku. Make sure that you subscribe on VOP TV. That's at Voice of the People TV, as well as our social media handles at VOP TV Live. Also, Voice of the People 90.3 FM, VOP 903 FM across all social media platforms. Remember, it's at VOP TV on our social media handles, as well as on YouTube. It's at Voice of the People TV. All right. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation this evening. I do hope you